Now, I mentioned about these other minor keys, so I just thought I'd take a minute to look at that, because it's quite interesting when we're working in minor keys. We've got some options here. So I've written this sheet in C minor scales, just so that it's a bit easier with the theory. So we know that there's 3 minor scales, okay? And actually, if you and putting them on a sheet like this, it's quite helpful to see them all next to each other, so that you can see the difference. And essentially, obviously, we have a flattened third, so the third is what makes it minor. But what differentiates them is what's happening on the 6th and 7th degrees of the scale. So C melodic minor has unaltered 6ths and 7ths, which means it's the same as the major scale. So whenever we talk about sharps and flats, we're always referring it back towards the major scale. So we've got a flattened third, and nothing else changes. Okay. The harmonic minor has the flattened third and a flattened 6th, yeah, but an unaltered 7th. Now I've often heard people refer to that as a minor third interval, but it's not. Technically, it's not. It's an augmented second. I know that's been a bit pedantic, but it's important to be correct when we're learning, because it's an A to a B, right? So those are 2 letters, so it's some kind of a second, yeah? And it's a flattened A to a natural B, so it's an augmented second. So harmonic minor has the flat 6th, but the unaltered 7th, okay? Natural minor has the flattened 6th and the flattened 7th, and this is the scale that gives us our key signature. So the minor key signature is built around this, which is flat 3, flat 6, flat 7, and this is why I refer to it as the natural minor scale. If you've been taught classically, traditionally, you might have been taught that as the descending melodic minor. We don't do that in jazz. We have the scale can go up and down, and it's still the same scale. So we have different scales. We call that the natural minor. Now, this is my slightly controversial 4th minor scale. And actually, as many of you know, it's not technically a scale, it's a mode. It's the Dorian mode, which is 2nd mode of the major scale. But I think it can be, very often when we think of Dorian mode, we're thinking of playing it on a 2 chord in a major 2-5-1. But when we're talking in minor key signature, tonic minor, we can use Dorian as a tonic minor, and actually it works quite well. Because it has this is like the 4th option. We have the flat third, but and this is where the 6th is unaltered, but the 7th is flattened. So we complete every combination there. Now, where you might use that is on a minor 6 chord. So the very first chord on this sequence, let's look at the solo sequence now. We're in G minor, so that first chord is G minor, but it's actually it's G minor 6, and when we get a minor 6 chord, it's an added 6. Yes, we get a minor triad with the added 6, but it's a normal, regular, what we would call a major 6, okay, which is very confusing language, but essentially it's an unaltered 6, okay. So this is where Dorian mode works very well, yeah, because we can play Dorian mode on a minor 6 chord, yeah, and that 6 is very important because it's in the chord, yeah, okay, all right, good, yeah. Now, as there's no 7th on that chord, the other option that you could do, there's many options, you could use melodic minor on that chord as well. Yeah, melodic minor would also work because there's no 7th, so the 7th is not explicit, so you can do whatever 7th you like, technically speaking, but we must play a major 6. Now the advantage of melodic minor is that you carry on with that same chord through the next chord here when we go to the D7, the 5 chord. So if you play G melodic minor on the minor 6, okay, it's got the F sharp in it, which means you can use that same scale on the D7. Now I know that gives it a flat 13, but that works very nicely on a dominant, and there's no alterations on it, so we can add that alteration because I've got my major third there. Yeah, so that D7 chord is contained in my G melodic minor scale. So if you use melodic minor, you could play the same scale through all four of those bars, all four bars of the A section. Now we get to the next bit where we get our harmonic, where we get our 2/5. Yeah, bars 5 and 6 of the A section. What's going to work there? And that's a 2/5/1 to G minor. So we're getting 2, 5, 1. And harmonic minor works very well on that. So that would be G harmonic minor. Because that gives us the flat 5 on the 2 chord. And the flat 9 on the D7. Yeah? So we could play harmonic minor for the next 2 bars. And then this is where it gets interesting. The last 2 bars, we've got this. Well, if you look at the bass line, we're going 1, flat 7, flat 6 to 5. So that's implying our natural minor scale. Yeah? You could play so we've managed to fit all 4 of those minor scales into the A section of this tune. Yeah? I don't know if that helps or not. It could just confuse you. But the way to think of it is, okay, this is important. Essentially, they're all minor, they're just different flavours. There's different flavours of minor there. And that's what the 6th and the 7th do. They give it a slightly different flavour. But when we see the chord symbols, a chord symbol isn't just a chord, it's a scale as well, and it implies a scale. So for instance, when we see the minor 6 chord, you know, you're not going to play harmonic minor scale on that. That's going to not work because you've got the E natural in the piano, and if you start playing that on top of it, on that, that's not going to work, right? So it's reducing the choices there. We do have some choices, some of which are more heavily implied than others. And this is the thing about jazz chord symbols. You know, they'll in a certain context with which they're being used, then it implies a chord, a scale or a mode. Yeah. So we're on the tonic minor here. We're in tonic minor. This is not a 2 chord; it's a 1 chord. G minor 6 is the 1 chord. It's not a 2 chord.